Welcome to this Sunday webinar here with JP Nurbin, Mark Cassio. I'm Tyler Costin, and together we are SAVI Coaching and TOC Coach, and we are going to bring you 3 tools every coach needs. And I think that this is coming at a really timely moment in the year, especially for all the coaches that we get to work with, specifically at SAVI Basketball, as most basketball coaches are turning their attention, their eyes to their upcoming season. And whether you're a basketball coach or a coach of any or multiple sports, I think that we get to prepare for our season many times throughout the year. And there's often seasons within a season. And a lot of times, the first thing that we do is we look at the first game on our schedule and we ask ourselves, what do we need in order to win this game? And what we want to offer up to you on this webinar is what we think is actually more important than winning your first game. And more important than winning your first game is developing 3 tools that you need to win your season, especially if you define winning your season beyond your win-loss record, beyond your performance at the beginning. And if we can turn more of our attention to these 3 tools, we think that you're going to set yourself up, your program up for sustained and transformational success. And so I'm very excited to dive into these 3 tools. I've got one, Mark has one, and JP has one. And these are 3 tools that every coach needs. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to frame my tool, and then let's go ahead and who's going second? Is it JP or Mark?
I'll go last.
Okay, then JP's just going to frame and give a teaser for his tool, and then we'll frame Mark's tool, and we'll come all the way back and we'll deep dive mine, just so you know what's coming on the roadmap for the next 40 minutes or so. Here's the first tool that every coach needs. In fact, if you're watching live on YouTube right now, either on the TOC page or the SAVI page, I would invite you to type into the chat box right now, what do you think are one of these 3 essential tools that every coach needs? Let's see if you get it right. If you get any one of the 3 right, you're going to win something, and it might be more than pride. I'm not sure. Mark, are you monitoring the SAVI chat?
I am. I think so.
And you're monitoring a SAVI chat?
I'm monitoring a chat.
Yes. And JP, do you have your eyes on the TOC chat?
I think so. I mean,
okay, good. I like it. And if you're not sure where the chat is, just speak it out into the world, because this is about interaction more than success. All right, we're about to give you the 3 tools each coach needs. Type into the chat if you think you have a guess on these 3 essential tools. This is where I would start with any coach. Let's share them, then we'll circle back because of the delay and see some of the answers that may have been shared.
Nicholas says patience.
Ooh, patience. I like that. Mark, anything to share from the audience before I share mine?
No, we maybe Nicole put it in both, but it says patience as well in SAVI Basketball.
Oh, that's Nicole. I thought it was Nicholas. Sorry.
Patience. Good. Nicole was on with me yesterday as well. Nicole is all in. I'm really proud of Nicole's coach's journey. All right. Number 1, the tool that I'm going to unpack today for you is leadership, a term often used, and one might say you need patience for leadership, but we're going to get very, very practical today on what leadership is. And I believe it's very possible for everyone to grow drastically in their leadership just today in the next 30 minutes. JP, what are you going to teach us about?
Conversations.
Wow. I hear you need
quality conversations.
Love it. And Mark?
I'm going to share a leadership, or a teaching tool.
I really put that in your brain. I like that.
I know. I'm so excited to hear yours. I'm going to share a teaching tool that every coach can implement tomorrow in a training session or a team meeting, a film session, whatever you're doing with your team this week. I guarantee you can implement this teaching tool that's going to completely reframe the way you see yourself as a coach, and you'll be able to implement this and get instant results. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, though.
All right. And we put these into 3 categories. So my leadership tool about practice and daily practice is the leadership tool. And we've got a culture tool of conversations using patience from JP, and Mark has an art of coaching tool. So let's go ahead and dive in. Before we really unpack how to develop the practice of leadership, I want to offer up an image. And let me actually ask you this, Mark. And as I ask this question of Mark, anybody in either chat Feel free to type in your answer to this. Mark, when you think about the journey or the progression of a coach throughout their career, what's the image that comes into your mind?
An image of a journey of a coach. I picture a coach standing in a gym,
Okay, okay,
watching their team practice, like at practice.
beautiful. JP, what would be your answer? What's the image when you think about like the lifelong career journey of a coach? I'll get more specific. The journey of their leadership as a coach. What's an image that comes to your mind?
Mm. Just came into mind was just the coach with the journal.
That's
Maybe
good.
there's some film, I don't know, but there's just
Okay.
they got a journal. Yeah.
I like it. I'm getting in the chat here an image. Okay, Nicole, thank you. This is also the image that comes into my mind. Nicole wrote in the chat a line graph that goes up and down, but over time, increasingly up. You have your plateaus, you've got your setbacks,
Mm.
and I would say all answers that anyone's giving really good. That was when I think about the journey of a coach. In fact, when I thought about my journey, that's how I envisioned my journey as a leader. Like I started out when I was done playing in college, and I didn't want to be a coach. I wanted to be a lawyer, and I was getting ready to take the LSAT. And then someone said, "I see in you a gifted basketball coach and leader." I said, "Really?" And that head coach said, "Come and be my assistant coach at the college level." And I had never considered being a coach as a career. And when they said that, I was a competitor. I wanted to win. So I immediately started planning out my journey. And it was a line graph that culminated upwards as a Division I head coach coaching on national television in the NCAA tournament. That was the end of my line graph. That was my image. And now that is not where I am at, but now the image that I want to offer up to everyone as you think about your coaching journey is to not think about it as a path or a road or a destination or a series of benchmarks and achievements. I would encourage you to throw that away. And instead, I would encourage you to think about your journey as a circle, as a never ending circle. And as we dive into the practice of leadership today, I want to offer up to you a two sides of a cycle, of a circle. And on one side of this circle, I want to offer up this idea of leading yourself really, really well. And on the other side of this circle, I want to offer up the idea of leading others really, really well. Because in order to develop as a leader, the more you lead yourself, the greater leader you'll be of others. And the greater leader you are of others, the better leader you'll be of yourself. And this is not a path of achievement like a graph or a certification or completing a course. It's a self-feeding engine that continues to turn over and over and over with greater impact. And the hardest person you'll ever lead is yourself. And I would argue that the first and most important step any of you could ever take to being a better leader of your team is to lead yourself. And so what does that mean? What does that mean to lead yourself well? Well, really, step one is the marshmallow test. JP, are you familiar with the marshmallow test?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mark, familiar with the marshmallow test?
Maybe. I might be thinking of a different one, though.
Let's find out. So I actually performed the marshmallow test on each of my children, and they performed very, very differently. The marshmallow test is essentially this, and I performed it on myself, but I think the control of the experiment was flawed. So the marshmallow test is basically this: you put a marshmallow on a plate in front of a child, and you say, "Hey, if you don't eat this marshmallow, when I come back, I'll give you 2 marshmallows. But if I leave and you eat this 1 marshmallow before I come back, you only get 1 marshmallow." That's the marshmallow test. And
I'm doing
so
that tomorrow with my kids.
Yes, absolutely right. And it will tell you if your children have a chance to be successful. No, that's they did relate long-term lifetime success to this marshmallow test. So I did it all my kids, but my son Nash, who's now 6, I think we did this when he was 4-ish, right? And he understood the concept of wait and get another marshmallow. I left the room, came back 30 seconds later, marshmallow gone. Okay. And that would be an example of not leading yourself well. It would be a lack of discipline. I said, Nash, did you want 2 marshmallows? He said, yeah, I just couldn't wait. I just couldn't wait. And so the tool that I want to offer up is, shout out Allen Iverson, is we're talking about practice. It's the daily practice of leading yourself well. We'll go Mark with this question first, then JP. And whenever I ask Mark and JP a question, all of you in the online audience, please also answer. Mark, what is the most admirable quality of any leader that you have chosen to follow?
Self-discipline, I guess, just a very disciplined approach to themselves. Usually like wake up early and have a morning routine.
And I just want everyone to know that I did not tell Mark to say that. Okay.
I won.
I mean, you get 2 marshmallows. JP, how would you answer that question? What's the most admirable quality of the leader you've chosen to follow?
Well, I don't want to just copy Mark, so I'd say like an authentic vulnerability / awareness with that.
Yeah. Those are probably my 2 as well. But today we're talking about practice. And we'll talk about vulnerability in a future webinar, possibly. All right, here it is, coaches. I'm just going to be real direct as I was thinking about you. Honestly, we recently just sent out an email to all the coaches that we have the honor of like serving. And I said in this email, I said, I want you to have your best season yet. And all 3 of us, JP, Mark, and myself, that's why we do what we do. Like, we truly care about having your best season yet. And in preparing for this webinar, I'm like, gosh, what is like one simple practical thing that was just transformational in my experience and made me want to follow someone? And it really is the daily practice of a disciplined morning routine.
Wow.
Because when you do that, think back to our cycle, you will lead yourself really, really well. And as you lead yourself well, you'll lead others well. We can talk about leadership tools all day long. There are infinite ones. And you can just go anywhere online and see them for free. But guess what? If you can't lead yourself well, no one's going to listen to you when you try all of your different leadership tools and you put on your little culture day and you ask them to sacrifice themselves and you say, hey, I want you, value your nutrition team while you're slamming back sodas, right? Let's work hard in the weight room while you're not training your own body, right? Like, what is your daily practice? And again, we're not talking about a line graph or an achievement or a physical level of fitness. What we're talking about is a daily practice to prioritize the things that are going to allow you to not pour from an empty cup. So here it is. Very, very simple. I'm going to simplify this and offer it up to you. Forbes recently did a study on the most successful people in the world. And I only have 2 minutes left on my segment. Forbes recently did a study on the most successful people in the world, and they identified 5 habits of highly successful people that were lacking in the least successful people. And full transparency, Forbes defines success as what, Mark?
I don't know.
Wealth. And we're not saying that we all define success.
Got it.
That was their benchmark. It's a financial magazine. Okay. It's a business. So they were saying like, okay, like the most successful, like the highest net worth individuals versus the lowest net worth individuals. And
can I guess these 5? Can we guess these 5?
You can. Please do. Yes. Go ahead.
Mark, what would you say is one of the 5?
5 wealthiest individuals?
No, not the individuals. Like, they're the 5 things that they did.
Okay. I was going to say, I'll say wake up at 4 a.m.
Wake up at least 3 hours before they start their work day or their first appointment. Yeah. Start early. 1.
They're readers.
Yes. Read at least 20 minutes every single day.
I would say journal.
Gosh, you guys are good. Yeah.
Exercise.
Interestingly enough, I also thought that wasn't on there.
I put actually walk or
okay,
solitude.
For whatever reason, that particular one wasn't on there. Yeah.
Meditate or mindfulness or prayer.
Yep. Some level of meditation or prayer daily. Yeah. And the last one. The last one was interesting that this was the one.
Is it that they're a member of TOC Coach or Savvy Basketball? Is that
Ding 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 ding. No.
yes, got it.
The last
Quality
one.
time with somebody, maybe.
No, yeah,
No.
you'd think that. The last one was in the car. It was a particular time in the car. They listened to podcasts in the car instead of like music or the radio. That one kind of surprised me, but whatever.
It was on my radar.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Should
good.
have said it.
So what are these 5 things? Wrap it into one: a daily practice of a morning routine. A morning routine. And I would actually agree. You can sub out any of those. I really do think something around your physical health must be in your morning routine. Walk, drink a full glass of water, have a green drink, do 20 push-ups, work out, right? And so how can you have your best season yet? What's a tool that every coach needs? You need a daily practice. You need a daily practice. If you did, I'm just going to be honest with you. If you, as a leader, do not have a disciplined daily practice where you can pass the marshmallow test, I would have trouble following you. I would. And I think so would others. Many of us want to follow a leader because of what we see in their own life, way more than what they can verbally tell us. And I know that's been the case for me as well. So are you a leader worth following? Let's become one through the cycle of daily practice. JP, I think you grabbed something off your bookshelf to share here.
Well, yeah, no, I just like I love what you shared today, and there's just like made me think about the leadership journal I put out there, and we've still got a few copies left. So if people are interested, they can reach out to us. But it's got a habit tracker, so you could definitely have your read, you could have your meditate, your your listen to the podcast. You could have those out of the 12 habits, and then it's got a lot of space there in the middle with some things there for reflecting at the big, and one of the things I think you talk about leading yourself, I think is so important, Tyler, is that you got to know yourself too. And so I think that's the power of like reflection and journaling, is that these leaders start to know and understand, what are my values? What is important to me? How do I want to show up?
Mm.
What is my best self? Like, what is that? Like my real, true, authentic self, not my personality, pissed off self as a coach, but like really at my best self. So yeah, no, I love what you're sharing there. I just said I'd point that out, the journal here. If you can just reach out to us, we can give you more information on that.
And that's the coach's journal there, JP, or what do we go?
Yeah, it's like a TOC coach. It's a leadership journal.
Separate
So,
TOC
yeah.
coach's journal. Well,
Yeah.
let's do this. I think let's take a pause. You said we have a few of those left, or you have a few of those left.
Yeah, we got like 30 or so left.
Okay, beautiful. So let's do this. Quick little insert. JP, if you wouldn't mind dropping the link to the about page into the TOC coach thread. I'm dropping into the Savvy basketball thread right now. The next, we'll go hour. Anyone that joins TOC coach in the next hour gets a journal. Anyone that joins TOC coach in the next hour. And I think there's just a great opportunity. So Savvy Basketball is partnered with TOC coach because there's so many culture and leadership and art of coaching questions that come in to our Savvy basketball coaching community that we decided we need to dedicate an entire classroom training community to developing coaches regardless of sport, culture, leadership, art of coaching. And that's why we just launched TOC coach in partnership with JP. And we are offering up both the opportunity for individual coaches to join TOC coach. I just dropped it here into the chat, as well as athletic directors that value these things. We want to take your coach development on for you. And we offer individual memberships or department-wide memberships. If anyone joins TOC coach in the next hour, clock it. We are going to send you, we'll send you a DM. We'll get your address. We'll send you one of these journals. We believe in this so much. We're putting our money where our mouth is. Any of our Savvy basketball annual members, we're giving you TOC coach for free. If you want to get in there, send Mark or myself a DM on the platform. We'd love to get you in. We are thrilled and excited about the development that we can just pour into this specific community, and we can keep basketball coaching for basketball coaches. Okay. Anything you guys want to add to that before you flip it to UJP for our next tool? All right. Well, talking about practice, that is your leadership tool. I'll throw it to JP for the culture tool.
Yeah. So the big one I had was conversations. So let's throw it to you, Tyler, here, Mark. When you think about really quality conversations, actually, let me backtrack there. Like, if before I throw the question to you, my question is going to be, what are the key ingredients of really good conversations? And actually, listeners, you can drop that in the chat box there. Like, if you think about really quality conversations, what are some of the key ingredients? And I'm going to talk about those key ingredients to quality conversations with athletes, with your coaches, with your parents of your program, if you're a high school coach. But just before we kind of share those things, like if I asked Mark, or Tyler, like, what does culture building look like? I imagine neither of you would say a coach grabbing some bricks and some mortar and he's actually like going out, or she's going out there and like building like some physical structure. It, if you were to think about what does culture building look like, in I was to put a camera on a team and a coach and a leader and say, okay, how are they building culture? It would be conversations. It'd be them having conversations. It's the one-on-ones, it's the team conversations, right? And the quality of the culture would come down to the quality of those conversations. And if you think about the relationships, like any relationship, in your life, you can look at the conversations. Well, how are those conversations going? Are they effective? Are they not effective? Right? What's the quality of those conversations? Will often show you the quality of those relationships too. So, such an important element to building culture. What do we have here as far as people's ideas here? We got Ryan said active listening as a key ingredient. Okay. Mark, you want to throw out one of your key ingredients?
Yeah, mine would be like 50-50 as far as both people talking.
50
Equal sharing.
Equal sharing. Tyler?
Okay. I'm going to give you a longer answer than you. Mark started laughing before I even said it. I'll be very, very brief, okay? And this is just top of mind because our pastor actually shared this in church today. I've been thinking about it ever since. One word answer. What's important is discrimination. Okay, hang on, bear with me. Okay. So, and really, like, I don't know what the opposite of discrimination is. I guess non-discrimination, but this was this really impacted for me is actually church today was about relationships and about communication relationships. And our pastor actually shared, he said, hey, I think the greatest issue in culture today is discrimination, and not because of the color of a person's skin necessarily, but discrimination against other people's ideas. Discrimination or prejudice rather is actually like just prejudgment, right? Is prejudging someone's ideas before you actually, buzzword we just talked about, listen to their ideas. And then like the full circle of this, which has really just been rattling around in my head and is what popped up when you asked this, JP, is like, okay, prejudgment, discrimination or prejudice, prejudgment leads to fragility. Your relationships become fragile. Your culture becomes fragile when you prejudge a person's idea. And I know as coaches, we run into this all the time, especially with parents. Like when we're trying to put an offensive defensive system in a culture thing, right? And all of a sudden the idea is prejudged by the stakeholders in our program, oftentimes parents, because they have their own opinions. And then the relationship becomes very fragile between you and the parent, and therefore you and the player, or even on a coaching staff. Prejudgment of ideas and the relationships become fragile. So when I think of conversation, I think of the removal of prejudice and prejudgment. And that's how you can build a strong relationship. I think a relationship is just another word for culture. So that's not what you asked for, JP. I don't know, but
no, I think you actually, you really hit it really at the core.
Okay.
And I think, some people said like questions, which is great. This is part of this. I think that's more like the skill, right? I'm going to say it's like a skill of having good questions. Nicole said like, being able to listen, like active listening. Ryan said that one. And I'm going to talk about, well, what does that actually mean? How do we actually do that? Nicole also said acknowledge other points of view. And I would say that's going to be one of my key ingredients there too. So I wouldn't put necessarily a 50-50, but I think it is a good judgment. Like what Mark talked about there. A lot of times I'll be coaching a coach and I'll say, hey, how'd that conversation go with that athlete last week? And they'll be like, it went really well. I'm like, oh, really? How much did you talk? How much did they talk? And they're like, oh, yeah, probably mostly me. And I'm like, okay. And then it's usually like the next week, it's like, yeah, they didn't really didn't soak in, So it's definitely you want to be on that 50-50 mark, if not even less than 50% of your talking. So I think it's kind of a good metric. So here's my key ingredients, and I'm going to kind of give you 5. The first thing is just to be fully present, like full presence. And that means like your phone's away, they know you're there fully with them, like a really quality conversation, right? Whether you're meeting with your team and a whole team meeting or doing a one-on-one with an athlete or with a parent, are you fully present? And so you need to do things to create the conditions for you to be present and for them to be present, simply put. So there's a lot of things that could distract you. So if you have to want to have a quality conversation, and it's like right before practice, can you fully be present? If you're managing a lot of the other things, can you say, hey, can we talk about this after? Or hey, let's step out in the hallway and let's have this conversation because this is really important. So whatever it be, can be fully present. The second one is very much tied to that. It's awareness, but it's very much also tied to what Tyler just said away there. I have to be aware, and this is the power of what I'm such a big believer in mindfulness and meditation, because I have to be aware of my judgments or my discriminations that come up. So important. I can't ask good questions if I have judgments or discriminations coming up. I just can't, right? Everyone's like, well, JP, what are the best questions to ask, right? Because I sit around and ask a lot of questions as an executive coach. That's like, I spend my afternoons after asking questions. The good ones are not some pre-described list. They're when I'm fully present and fully curious with the other person. But I can't, but if I'm not aware, I'm not aware, oh, this judgment's coming in, then I can't set that aside. So fully aware of judgments coming in. Okay, yeah, I got the thought. Well, can I hold it off to the side? So important. Before I go on to the next few, do you guys want to jump in, or do you have anything else on those?
I think it's really good.
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. What? No, I'm just kidding. That was I'm fully present, JP. I was kidding.
Yeah, I'm not even putting questions as like the key ingredient, because when you're fully curious, the questions will come.
Mm.
Fully present, fully aware, be aware of those judgments, and then get curious. Questions will come, and the right questions will be the most open, curious questions. So closed questions are yes or no, one-word answers. Open questions have, much more, obviously more detail you're asking for. But a lot of times we ask leading questions, which we pull the athlete aside and we say, hey, how do you feel about your effort today in practice? It's like, they like, no, like, well, coach isn't happy. It's like, and then what we say is oftentimes coaches, I'll talk to them, and I feel like they're just telling me what I want them, what they want me to, or what do they say? They're just telling me what I want to hear, right? And it's like, well, that's probably because you're asking really leading questions. So get really curious. Instead of saying how you feel about your effort, it's just like, hey, it seemed like you're a little bit off with your effort today. What was going on for you today? Right now, that question comes up like, hey, you just seem a little bit off. What's going on? What's happening out there? Right now, I'm really curious. I'm sharing an observation. I noticed this. What's going on for you? But I'm really curious their perspective on it. The other thing, okay, so present, aware, curious. Nicole said acknowledge other points of view. One of the best ways to do that is through reflections. Just if an athlete or parent says, well, my effort was really poor today. I was really struggling with school and all this XYZ. Like, cool. All right. Yeah, I get it. Like, school's been really heavy for you. It's the 4th practice this week. We haven't had a game, right? Just, am I hearing you right? Just reflecting back what you're hearing, they feel heard. And sometimes an athlete might just unload. They might tell you, speak for 2-3 minutes, which is great. Can you take what they shared with you and condense that to 1 or 2 sentences? So this is what I'm hearing. Things have been pretty overwhelming with the school lately for you, and trying to manage all those things, right? So that reflection is like, oh yeah, I feel seen, I feel heard in that. That's a skill, right? But if you're really listening, what are they trying to tell me? And you just share it back to them, it'll start to emerge. Got my final 2 here that I'm going to give you. Mark, Tyler, you got anything else on that?
I'm taking notes.
All right. The last one, really big one, is silence. The best questions will require space for thinking, for courage to step in and share their truth. Give them silence. Great story I shared on my podcast. I think I know he's a SAVI guy as well too. Is JT Jonathan Tazinski? Give a shout out to JT. But like 2 years ago, JT leaned into a really hard conversation with an athlete. He asked a really powerful question that he had planned. Now he was really curious, but he said to one of his toughest players, he said, "What's the hardest part about being coached by me?" And the player just told him exactly what he thought the coach wanted to hear. And JT didn't say anything. He said, he just sat there and listened. And finally, the kid just kept talking. And essentially, what would have been like a 5-minute conversation turned into a 90-minute conversation. And that relationship was absolutely transformed. A player who he was worried was never going to be bought into his program became his most bought in and became a leader on the team, right? Because that conversation was the catalyst, all because he sat in silence. So you ask really good questions. You say, no, tell me more about that, right? Like you're saying, like, I really want to know the truth here. So silence is powerful. I give all that when we're really struggling, when we're trying to have better conversations with our athletes. Give us some of these conversations structure. As you get more and more skilled at conversations, you can remove structure. But I know even in some of my work as an executive coach, I want to have structure and some plan. Hey, and the structure could be, I'm going to have a one-on-one with an athlete. We got 15 minutes here. Maybe I'm sending out a Google form. We got loads of those in TOC Coach, like Google Forms that are pre-one-on-one conversations. And it could be asking, hey, what are you enjoying about the season? What are you not enjoying? What's one thing that you'd like to see change about the team? I mean, there's so many different pre-one-on-one conversations that you can kind of ask to get people thinking. But you want to come to that conversation and go, okay, what's the structure here? Who's going first? Right. And oftentimes I'll just have coaches, they'll just reach out to their players and say, hey, we're doing a round of one-on-ones this month. Make sure you come with something that you want to talk about. And the structure of the conversation is, first off, hey, what do you want to talk about? What do you want to focus on? How can I help you? And then the coach might say in the second half of that conversation, now I'm going to come in, I'm going to share a few observations that I'm having and get their perspective on it. Maybe things have been going really well. And it's just like, hey, there's a big turning point in your season. Tell me more about what's helped you make that change. Or maybe things haven't been going well. And you might just share, hey, I think your performance has been struggling. What do you feel about that? What's going on there? So just some sort of structure can help you to be more effective and be more present.
Yeah, really good. I think, gosh, it's funny how both of the things that y'all shared, I can really tie into my teaching tool here if we're ready to hit that. Tyler, you started by sharing. Are we ready to go for that, or we want to dive into this?
Let the silence rest. Well, actually, let's do this. Yeah. If everyone watching live as we transition into Mark's Art of Coaching tool, of those 5 keys to conversation that JP just shared, which one resonated with you the most as your key growth opportunity? If you can just drop that into the chat, it's great for other coaches to see what resonated with you, but also just the act of typing that in will probably drop it into from your head, like head knowledge to heart. Like, I believe I'm going to do it. It's more likely you'll take action on it. And the silence one actually was huge for me. So that's my answer. I don't know that we have to wait for them necessarily, Mark, but I just want to give everyone that space and opportunity to share.
Yeah, good. All right. So I'm going to dive into the teaching tool that I said that you could share in your program as early as tomorrow, no matter what activity you have planned. If it's a practice, if it's a meeting, if it's a film session, if it's a strength and conditioning session. But before I drop this one, as you're typing in the chat box, we see some of these tools coming in that coaches are going to use around their conversations. I want you to also type this in to the chat box. Type in your role that you have. What is your role in your program, your club, your team? Like what would you define your role as? And as you do that, it was interesting how what y'all shared is really good. It's I think I can connect some dots here. Tyler talked about like leading yourself as a leader and kind of reframing your vision or your image as your coaching journey into being a circle instead of a line graph of a really good stock that might go up or down, but is going to increase over time. And then JP talked about conversations more so off the court. So and he talked a lot about questions as well. So I'm going to bring something on the court for you. And I think as these come into the chat box, I think most people on this webinar would define their role as a coach. And whether you're an assistant coach, you're a head coach, and I'm going to ask you to reframe your thinking into being more of a teacher. I think we are teachers of our sport. We're teachers of life lessons instead of coaching. I think most sports are probably overcoached, undertaught. So next time you're in front of your team, shift your mindset to you being a teacher, because if we approach practice or film sessions as a coach, I think we default to telling people what we want them to do. Like, move here, cut there, pass the ball there, don't take that shot. But what we want to do is shift to teaching, because telling isn't teaching. So how do we teach? How do we get our athletes to perform at a higher level or to increase transfer from practice to games? It's actually not by telling them what to do. It's by asking questions. And this is one of the most impactful things that I have made a habit in my coaching. It definitely was not a default. It didn't come natural for me. But when I led with questions, I found that my team would think deeper about what we were trying to do, and it would force them to just process what they see, right? We can use those questions to get them to reflect on maybe the possession that just happened, whether it was good or bad. It promotes engagement. You can use these to check for understanding, or just use a good question to direct their attention on the floor. So there's like endless amount of things that you can use questions for in practice sessions or training sessions. But I'm reminded of a probably the first time I really intentionally used a question in practice. And I actually don't know what happened, but there was something that happened and a player didn't execute the way we wanted them to. It was a breakdown on execution on offense. And I stopped it and I said, Daniel, if you could do that again, what would you do differently? And he looked at me and he gave me the exact right answer. So for me, it was just very eye-opening, because I felt like as a coach, when my teams didn't do something in practice, I'd get frustrated thinking like, oh, they don't get it. They don't have a good enough basketball IQ, or this kid just doesn't want to do it right. He's doing his own thing. Well, this wasn't an instant where this player couldn't, meaning they were unable to do it, or they were unwilling, just he wouldn't do it. It was he just didn't. He just didn't do it that time. And that gave me the way forward with that team. Like, I didn't have to stop practice and highlight this and talk about it and reteach it. All I had to do is say, oh, you're exactly right. Let's rewind and let's do that again. And let's get you to do it right. So it actually gave me the exact tool or the exact method, the exact way forward that I needed as a coach. And it was so reassuring to know, like, my guys know what to do. We just got to let the rice cook. We just need more reps. We got to play more games. We got to stay with what we're doing. And then our execution will go up. So I think if you're a coach that right now your default is to stop and tell your player what to do, you're doing more coaching and telling, and that's going to get you maybe the short-term results. They might do it right on the next possession or the next opportunity, but it usually doesn't ingrain a habit. Whenever you ask questions, when they think about it, when they process, when they come up with the conclusion themselves, they're going to internalize it, and you're going to get longer-term results from asking those questions. So JP, Tyler, y'all are really good at this. I've seen y'all in the gym with teams before. What are some questions that you've asked athletes or your teams in general?
You go first or second, JP?
You go first.
Okay, 3 came to mind when you started talking about this, and these are 3 categories where I think a coach could choose to grow in their question asking. If you are preparing to ask more questions, I would suggest just begin to slot questions into one of these categories. Often occurs throughout practice, because teaching happens in practice, at games as well, but more so in practice. First, why? Ask questions as far as to why. Most of the time when I do a practice audit or go into a coach's gym, they'll say, all right, we're going to run this Carolina drill. All right, we're going to scrimmage now. Or, okay, let's go ahead and do this thing. And there is no mention of why. I mean, step one is start with why, but step two is use questions to identify the why. So, for example, we recently had to get better at defending nines. In SAVI basketball, 9 is an open layup, but to get better at defending nines. So this is exactly the process that I did just this last week. It's because Mark teaches me all the time, and he's mentored me into this. I said, okay, what's the number one thing that we want on offense? Right. And then there were a bunch of answers. They didn't get them right. Eventually said, oh, we want nines. Yes, we do want nines. And basketball is a game of what? And they said opposites. Good. Okay. So what's the number one thing we want to take away on defense? And I got a whole bunch of answers that were
sevens.
Exactly. That's exactly what they said. And eventually they arrived at nines. I said, okay, let's do this again. What do we want on offense? Nines. Basketball is a game of opposites. Whoa. Big game of opposites. So what do we want to take on defense? Nines. Good. Nice. So what do you think we should work on today? Sevens. No, it's like, okay, taking away nines, right? So we identified the why of what we were about to do, the game that we were about to play, through questions, instead of me saying, you suck at taking away nines, you foul all the time, right? No, start with questions. So one would be the why. Okay, I won't go as in-depth on the other ones. That one was just a very recent one. Second one, organization. Oh, so good. Maybe female athletes sometimes ask us more than male athletes. That's been my experience. But you explain a game or a drill, and they say, okay, well, how do we rotate? How do we rotate? Do not answer. Instead, ask a question. How do you think we should rotate? And then all of a sudden you've opened up some creative problem solving, some ownership, et cetera, et cetera. So organization is a great one to ask questions about. How do you want to rotate? How many reps? How many reps do you want to get? Like all organizational questions, ask them back. So organization would be the second way. And then lastly, just whether or not we're above or below the line. Instead of getting frustrated, get fascinated. At any point where your practice is below the line of excellence, energy, effort, communication, you name the standard, right? Instead, just ask them. Question are we above or below the line right now? Is this practice above or below the line? How can we change it? Are you willing to change it? And then you can remove your anger, your frustration, your shaming, your ranting, your raving, whatever, right? So whenever, because it happens many times throughout practice that we're below the line, you must hold the line, but how? Through questions. So I think those are three opportunities that are pretty easy to implement right away.
Yeah, I love your examples there too, Tyler. I mean, some questions that I like. The most open, curious question I love to ask players is just, what are you noticing out there? Just what are you noticing? Like, I just want to see what they're seeing. And there's really no right answer, right? At the end of the day, like, I think it's a great question because it forces them to really share their perspective. Whereas oftentimes, I think when we're in teaching mode, my frustration is sometimes I feel like they're just looking for what is the right answer instead of just sharing, right? Like they don't want to be wrong. So that's another way I do this with my daughter's team. And it's just, what are some good options? Like, what are some potential options you could have here? There's no perfect answer, right? I'm giving you, let's just look at this situation. What are some options here? Tyler, you talked about the above the line, below the line. I love, on a scale 1 to 10, where's your effort? I did this with my son the other day. Like, I genuinely was like, man, he seems really like he's struggling. I just said, hey, how would you rate your effort? 1 to 10. He's like, 5. I was like, oh, really? I was like, I didn't know where you put it. I probably put him at a 5 at the moment. And I was just like, everything good? You need anything? Like, he's like, all right. He's like, no, I need to pick it up. It's like, okay, what are you going to do to pick it up to an 8? He's like, I can just start sprinting for 1. And he's like, okay, cool. And like, that was it. Like, it was because he knows we don't do 5s, right? Like, just that's our thing. Like, we don't talk about winning, but we talk about, we're going to be a family of good effort, right? So, yeah, I mean, those are some, I think it's just another way to do the above the line, below the line.
JP, I
Yeah.
loved how that started a conversation too. Like going back to your
Yeah.
tool that you showed or shared today is like just by asking that question, how would you rate your effort? Now you have that conversation, you have that athlete engaged, and then asking another question, what can you do differently? You put it on them, right? Like they get to
Mm.
pick. It's more internal than you saying, hey, you should do this to pick up your effort. Really good. And then I would also say, like, what do you notice? I think Ryan said in the chat he loves to start halftime or timeouts this way. Love it. Like just go into the timeout. Hey, what are y'all noticing out there? Even if the coaches huddle was like, gosh, our shot selection is just not where it needs to be. And then you go into the timeout. What are y'all noticing? The ref's not calling fouls, then it might not be what's most important, but at least you know where your team is attuned to. And then now we can either direct focus to giving them a way to maybe work through that or direct their attention to maybe what is the most important.
There's something you just talked about there, the questions there. The best area we can actually get a lot better at this is assistant coaches in practices and games. Like if a dude comes off the court, assistant coach should be pulling him aside and they should be like, hey, what are you noticing? What are you seeing out there? What are you feeling? Right? Like you should just be literally asking questions to coach them through what they're seeing, their emotions they're feeling to help recenter them. I think that's a huge opportunity. The same, I think too many assistant coaches, and I see this in all sports, they just stand around a lot in practice going, oh, it's not my turn to run the drill. Or they're interjecting. They feel like, okay, now there's a stop and play. Head coach is going to talk and I'm going to talk. And then somebody else, and that just kills energy. It's like, you could have such an impact by pulling players aside and just being like asking a question here or there, right? Just these types of questions that we're throwing out there. So I think assistant coaches can be absolutely clutch at these things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of assistant coaches, most of the time they don't do anything because they don't know what to do. So equipping them with the tools of asking questions. One thing that really has stood out to me in the time I've got to spend with Tyler on the court is he does a really good job of normalizing wrong answers. So even he was given the example of the team he was working with, and it's like, all right, we really want nines on offense. So what do we want to take away defensively? And he heard a lot of wrong answers, like just like, oh, that's a good answer. Maybe JP, do you have an idea of what we should take away, right? And just normalize that because, and Tyler kind of said it really briefly in there, is it's going to increase ownership too. Of like, we want to co-create culture with our team, but we also want our practices to be like a shared experience between coach and player, where again, the guide on the side is more of a teacher than the coach that's just directing and telling everybody what to do. So I think the most important thing that we do as coaches in practice is give feedback, but just telling a player like what you saw there, what they could do better doesn't mean that it's going to land. It doesn't mean that player is going to be able to take that, understand it, and then transfer it to the next rep. So I think questions is really like the art of coaching. I think everything we shared here today with all of our coaches on is the art of coaching. Is like, can we lead ourselves so we can lead our team better? Can we have these conversations so we guide players and help them develop and know where they're at so we can be the coach that they need us to be? And then can we, make our training or our practices as valuable as as transferable as possible. So I think the coaches, like the art of coaching is all these things. And on the court, I think it's asking the right questions, like at the right moment, in the right way. So the feedback and the experience your players are going through actually connects and transfers to the game.
This was good. I learned a lot.
I did too. Yeah, I was taking some notes. I'm gonna be a better coach this week.
Yeah.
I really am. I'm excited for it.
And if you want to be a better coach, you should join TOC Coach and Savvy Basketball.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the first cooperative live webinar free to the public that we've done with this team, and it's just really confirming for me of the importance of the work that each and every one of you do as coaches, and the value that I think we can add to what you do as a coach. And so we truly do invite you to come join us at TOC Coach. Share TOC Coach with your athletic director. I know Fiki, who is in the SAVI live stream, said he's going directly to his AD to say, hey, we need to get our coaches in here. please do that. Reach out to us. You can, all of our emails are available. You can get DM us through our school. If you're already a Savvy basketball coach, info at savvycoach.com. If you get in touch with us, if you want to find out more about the journal, JP, what email should they email if they want to find out more about the journal, your books, or other questions?
Yeah, they can just reach out at jp@tocculture.com.
jp@tocculture.com. Well, thank you all for joining live. We hope that you want to dive deeper with us in your coaching journey, regardless of the sport at TOC Coach. You can find that link in the description on this webinar, on our page, and online. And any final thoughts before we sign off this Sunday, Mark or JP?
Bernie asked a good question there about the assistant coaches. Do we want to answer that?
When do you guys want to take it?
Yeah. Bernie just said about where would you put your coaches on the bench. I would not have my coaches all sitting at the one end of the bench. I would have coaches spaced out on a bench. That's typically how I would like it to be.
Yeah, I'll share quickly. I would also give them specific roles, like who's the connector, who's the relational guy or girl on your staff. That's who maybe should go have the first interaction when a player comes out of the game. But I will say this: don't have the conversation right when they come out of the game. Something that's really helped me is if I pull a player out, whether it's for any reason or not, they're probably not going to be happy they're coming out. It's like give them a little bit of space, and then go have a systemized approach of how we handle that.
Yeah, some sort of framework where certain coaches maybe even are designated certain players, but they have player knows, go get my water, reset, then come back for my debrief, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that is the value in membership. If you have questions like that as a member, you get to ask them and get direct feedback from us in our community. And then we do live trainings with all of our members. So we hope to see you. Thank you for spending this time with us. And we hope to see you in the membership.
See y'all next time.
Later.
Pull the cord.